could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, the times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you, the door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today, learn the part and join the play. The world is here, let's take it for a ride. You could be
Every Sunday morning, the sun shines bright. Grab your favorite mug, let's take flight. With the Coffee Time podcast, we gather around, talking about Colombia, where love is found. Expats share their stories, dreams unfold. In this coffee triangle, adventures bold. Oh, coffee time, bring us together. With laughter and love, we'll face any weather. From the mountains high to the valleys wide, in this coffee hug, we find our pride. From Medellin to Cali, Cartagena's shores, exploring this country, we open new doors. Tips and tales shared, we laugh and we learn.
Welcome back to the channel, Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live. Happy to be here. Feeling much better. I'll talk about that. Topics today. Do a coffee update. Talk about the crime wave in Armenia, which we've never had to talk about that before, but I'm going to discuss that. And then, of course, health. This isn't going to be all about what I went through. I'll talk about it somewhat, but only really because I'm all talked out about it. I will answer any questions you have, but primarily it's going to be navigating the healthcare system. I think that'll be good information. Now, if any of you are really curious about having a heart attack, and I don't want to not talk about it. I'm not comfortable getting on a topic where it's just all about me. So, particularly since the last time I had a coffee time, it was kind of for me, in-depth talk about what I went through. So I had a heart attack, had to go to the hospital, had to go back to the hospital. But along the way, you learn some things about the healthcare system. And there is a particular thing that everybody needs to know, and it's kind of a be wary of and plan for when it comes to the healthcare system that's unique to Spanish-speaking culture that can make a huge difference in your healthcare. So, but that'll probably be a separate topic because there's a lot to it. Either I'll do a standalone video, or maybe I'll do it as a coffee time next week topic. I'm not sure. So let's see. Let me see if I can take a look outside without losing everything here. I know it's got a bit of a delay. There we go. And weather forecast says it's going to rain all day, but you can see we got blue skies and, as usual, lots of clouds, but I imagine it will rain this afternoon. 'Tis the season. All right. Let's see. So how long is it going to take to get back to the regular camera? Well, that wasn't bad. All right. I'll take the topics down off the screen. Maybe. Where is it? Oh, where did I put it? Oh, here we go. Yeah, I got to get back in the swing of things. All right, Turtle, good morning. How you doing? fellow mind trippers. All right. Chad, how you doing? Yo, he's back. Yeah, I'm back. No, I never left. Thankfully. Somebody tell me how the volume is. Um, the system had an issue, kind of crashed, and I had to do a little repair on it. And I don't. Some of the settings, I think I lost. So let me know if the volume's a little lower, a little high. Juka, greetings from Finland. Juka, what a surprise this morning. Now I hesitate to kind of point this out because there are a lot of people that have been helping me keep this channel going for a number of years. Yuka is one of them, but I have to mention this. I woke up this morning to this contribution from Yuka. Uh, thank you very much. I very much appreciate it. Brick, B Nick, how you doing? Another longtime supporter of the channel. Buen dia, Senor Lauren. Turtle perfect. Volume is good. All right, awesome. I didn't have a chance to measure it out, and so I just kind of thumbed it, hoping it was all right. Galaxy Traveler, good sound. Renee, hello, Renee. Hello from Belgium. The former World Government Headquarters. Libby, my Ecuador friend, how are you doing? And Genich? Greetings from Vancouver, Canada. That's 51st state, right? Love to see you again, Lauren. You look normal to me. Well, I hope I look normal. Yeah, I'm normal. Okay. As you could tell, I watched YouTube during this. Why there was no coffee time? I didn't want to talk too much about myself, but it interacts. So I stopped doing coffee time because, if you recall, I had a heart attack. I went to the hospital. I went through the procedure. They put a couple stents in. It took a very long time. It needed more. They couldn't do more. I asked why. They said, because you would have died. I said, okay, good reason. So I was to come back after 4 weeks. So it ended up taking 7 weeks to go back. But during that time period, I was greatly affected. Imagine that your physical energy is a gas tank. I was running on fumes. It was so bad. People were messaging me, and I put the phone in the other room because there were times when I was just too tired to even pick up the damn phone. I mean, I could have forced myself to do it, but I don't even know how to explain it. But I went weeks like that where I just had no energy. I practically lived in an armchair. I couldn't lay down because I couldn't breathe because of my heart was only working at half speed. So anyway, I couldn't do coffee time. I tried to do one coffee time before things actually got worse, and I ran out of air, and it took me 2 days to recover after I did it. That was when I did not the coffee time specifically, but the health update, just to let you guys know what was going on, because people want to know when they hear or see certain things. So I'm sensitive to that. So I try to respond to it. So that's why there's been no coffee time. Lots happened. So much has happened. Mike has moved yet again. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think he's in his 5th place in as many years. This time, I am really jealous. He's paying less than I pay for rent, actually quite a bit less. And he's living in a hacienda just south of Armenia. Now, if you don't know what a hacienda is, think farm estate. He's got a big old patch of land and huge outdoor patios and barbecues, and it's awesome. He's invited me out for a barbecue as soon as I get some of my gas back in the tank. And so I'm looking forward to that. Actually, I'm packing my bags and moving into one of those extra rooms. It looks awesome. Um, Feel free to comment, ask questions or whatever as we go along. Of course, we always at the end have a Q&A period anyway. And it looks like there's a ton of people on here live. Okay, I could do a ad read, but I'm not up to it. All right. Mike, coffee update. This isn't really going to be an advertisement. I just wanted to say that it was very difficult through all of this to follow through on what I needed to do on the shipping. Hence, orders sat. I boxed them up ages ago. I mean, people had to wait forever. I emailed off and explained, and they were very kind about it to a person. But I mean, I felt awful. And anyway, on one day where I was feeling a little bit better, I got with the shipping company online, and Shariq was here, and she helped me. And we walked through the procedures so I could get certified for the legal aspect as far as going into the U.S. and got that done, and turned on my access on the internet. And that day I sent the stuff out. The upside is they're picking right up where I live. They'll send a truck, pick up the stuff, and take it from there. And the other upside is, even though I shipped them out, I believe it was a Saturday morning, one person got theirs. I think the person in Pennsylvania got theirs on Monday, and everybody else got, I believe it was Tuesday and Wednesday. I was in the hospital, and so I didn't focus on it. I just checked to make sure that they went through. Everything went through. Everything got through customs, no problem. One of the people sent me a photo of the boxes that arrived, and it was crumbled a little bit. There was no actual damage to it. You could just see that it had been shipped. So that all went pretty well. So shipping's nailed. Also, while all this was going on, I got more inventory in. So I got a ton of inventory. The costs are kind of crazy. Just so you know, I've never really mentioned this before. When I start doing standalone coffee videos, so I don't do them on coffee time and use up your time on a personal business venture. But I've got a lot of people that are invested in hearing about it, so I want to mention it. But the shipping and tariffs, I got so many questions about how are the tariffs affecting you. Well, the tariffs are actually minuscule as compared to the tax and the shipping cost. Depending on where it's going in the U.S., of the price that I'm charging, and shipping is included, all those extra fees are included. That price, between 1/2 and 3/4 of the price that I'm charging, goes to those expenses. So it's very expensive, rare coffee. So you take all those things, it's not cheap. On the other hand, if you look through Amazon for the same types of coffee from other places, the price is all in line. I didn't price mine according to them. It's just that as you get your expenses and you need to make a certain percent profit, that's what it ends up being. So everybody's going to be, somewhat in line. Turtle asks, which artery is still blocked, head, heart, or other areas of the body? Every artery that had an issue is inside the heart. There was one that's 100% blocked, and they were going to put a stent in it, but they couldn't clear it. But they decided, they were actually prepared. They'd spent some time and had a plan before I even arrived at the hospital. I got glimpses of it. It was all drawn out. basically here you got a heart. I use my head for a heart, and you got a major artery over here, and you got a major artery here, and then you got one running down the middle. But you got a bunch of others. I was surprised to see how many arteries are in the heart. And the larger arteries are fine. They're not even remotely plugged, and so that's good. I had a heart attack because I've got one at 100%, and one at 90%, and two at 99%. So the 100%, it turns out, is almost redundant. I probably shouldn't use that word, but in looking at what they plan to do and talking to them about it, they spoke English, so we actually had very good communication. As a matter of fact, the doctor who performed the operation has spent a lot of years in the U.S. and actually in Toronto, Canada too, Boston General, Miami, New York City Hospital. He's been around in actually some very good hospitals, and he explained what was going on. He had a very good manner about him, and he talked to me through the whole procedure because they just did a local. They run a cable up through your arm and over and down into your heart, which at some points you can actually feel it, but it's unsettling. And all that bruising, well, yeah, it's a rough thing. But the way he talked about it is the arteries that were almost plugged do pretty much the same function as the one that's plugged. And so the thought was, if we can get these three arteries cleared out, and with all these other arteries in good shape, that we could actually ignore that 100%. We don't have to go in and operate and replace a section and go through that, because that can be quite traumatic. Plus, you have nobody mentioned this at all, but I thought about it. I'm 71 years old. And if you go through an operation, you've got long recoveries, months, if not a year or two. And you don't even know how much time you have left. And do you want to do it going back and forth in the hospitals and worrying about rejection and all the different things that can come up? I was very comfortable with their conclusion. So anyway, supposed to be talking about this after we talk about these other two topics. So I started rolling right into some things that I was going to talk about. So the coffee cost. The last thing on the coffee is before I could not sell within Colombia for some specific reasons. But as I went through the shipping procedure, I was able to add on and take care of the documentation so I can actually sell within Colombia. And considering I won't have the tax tariff, well, there's still a tax, but I won't have the tariff and anywhere near the expense of the shipping, the coffee will run about a quarter of the price here. It's not going to be your 30,000 run of the mill coffee. This is still a premium coffee, but it's going to be more like with shipping, probably around 60, which is actually very competitive if you look at some of the premium coffees from this area. Okay, enough of the coffee. I'm not happy to talk about this, but I talk about things good and bad. I'm not a shill for Colombia. I've said before, there's many areas of Colombia I won't go, and there's areas I don't like, Cali being one of them. But there's lots of others. I'm not a big fan of Pasto. Popayan bores the hell out of me. Medellin, well, it's pretty awesome, but it's got a couple things that are deal breakers for me. The population is way too big. The traffic is insane. And during the week, getting 2 or 3 days of the pollution that's there, I don't know, I'm a baby. I'm very sensitive to pollution. maybe because I used to have allergies and things like that, and I don't have those allergies anymore. They went away, but pollution really gets to me. So, well, Medellin's awesome. It's not a place for me, but I like Bucaramanga. I love Manizales. Pereira, I'm not a big fan of. So I don't Cartagena. Well, for tourists, it's fine, and for the Spanish forts are very interesting. Yeah, not a place for me. Way too much going on that I don't like. So I'm certainly not a show for Colombia. I'm not trying to get people to come here. I do take people on tours and things like that, but it's a side thing, and I don't want to talk people into coming here. As a matter of fact, sometimes I think I should almost be doing the opposite, because you don't want to you don't want an influx of foreigners, no matter where you are. Um, so that's how I feel about it. Now, having said all that, when I talk about Armenia, it's always kind of in glowing terms because I live here and that's how I feel about it. And I rarely have to deal with issues that really bother me. Of course, anywhere you live, you're going to have things that uh, don't have what you wish they had this, or you wish it was a little different. You wish service was a little better. All of those kind. But overall, it's like how's it to live? Well, I'm over 6 years, and it's still the happiest place I've ever lived for me. So, people that aren't familiar with what I do and what I cover, they'll hear some of that and they'll think I'm shilling for Colombia and I'm shilling for Armenia. And then they see you do tours and, oh, you're telling stories to get people and you're trying to make money off people. And, I get it. Just so happens it's not real. People that know me for any length of time know much better than that. But that's why I talk about Armenia the way I talk about it, because I wake up every morning grateful to be living here. On the other hand, we're having a crime spike that's never been seen here before, and actually, it applies to Quindio. It's there's hardly a day that goes by without some pretty major crime happening, and we used to go months to a year without a major crime happening. I put together I guess you call it a slideshow. It's really excuse me. It's little videos, and let me play that. These are just headlines. I think it's over the last 4 or 5 days. It's not a very long time period. I could put some music on if you'd like. This couple caught with a gun and cocaine. Girl was hit with a stray bullet. I've never seen that here before. This is Montenegro, just a few miles away. The police they've got a major effort out. As soon as I got out of the hospital, I noticed police all over the place. Scopolamine never happened here before. In Calarca, they just had an incidence of it. This guy was caught before he committed a crime. He was getting ready to commit a crime in a restaurant. Here you got people masquerading as police to commit crime. This was kind of a massive bust. This is about apartments being rented by the day for criminals coming from out of the area to commit a crime and then leave. That's been a trend. But Armenia has been talking with other cities, and they're comparing notes where in the past you worry about your own home. And just last week, there was two people that were doing motorcycle crime, and they hit Armenia, and they hit somebody for money. It was actually kind of elaborate. The motorcycle acted like they hit the back of a car. The driver, and they had stalked, so they knew what was going on here. the driver, who was a driver for somebody that had been to the bank and had a bunch of money, who was out of the car doing something. Money was sitting on a passenger seat in a suitcase. So they'd followed him, pretended they hit the back of the car, and rolled up to where the driver is, and the driver, whatever they were talking about, I don't know, you might want to look if there's damage, that kind of thing. The guy got out. Well, while this was going on, somebody that had been dropped off from the back of the bike went around to the other side of the car as the driver was being distracted, opened the door, reached in, grabbed the suitcase, and hightailed it up the sidewalk. And then the motorcycle left the guy standing there, went and picked up the one who stole the money, and they took off. And the driver realized, and he went in. In the last part of the video was captured from a camera, like a building camera. You see him running up the street trying to catch it. There's no way he's going to catch him. Well, Armenia police spread that around to a bunch of other places, and they apparently, like the day after, they caught them. God, I don't remember. I was pretty loopy when I was looking at this stuff. It was either Manizales or Bucaramanga, but they caught them. So these people are bouncing all around, and that's why we have more crime, because it's not so much here. It's people coming in to commit crime and then run away to not get caught. Well, the cops are onto it, and they've worked up some plans. So I have every confidence, because in the past I've seen how something will pop its head up and how they will jump on it and stomp it out. But you saw from those headlines, that's just a few days. There's been quite a bit of crime going on here, including a restaurant, Cerrone, which just recently moved, and it's actually half a block from where a friend of mine lives. Somebody went into the restaurant at gunpoint, robbed, I think gold chain or something, I don't know, robbed the patrons and then ran away. He got caught. They're doing a lot of, you'll see the thing, and a day or two later, you're seeing where they caught the person. But they got something like, as you might have seen on one of those headlines, somewhere around 12 people right now that are like on a wanted list. And they haven't been caught yet, but they're working on it. And these people aren't getting a free pass. Now, most of the crime that's been taking place has been in Central. If you're not from here and you're coming from another city, that's the most likely place you would gravitate to anyway. So, so what I have to say is, it doesn't, at this point, I've been through crime in different places in the world. In the U.S., I lived in L.A. for a while. Crime can happen, it can go up and down. I'm not happy to see it, because we've been practically crime-free, but for a very long time. But it is what it is, and not to be cliche, and it's happening, and it's happening all over the world. It's the repercussions of the nightmare still go on. And you have to see it for what it is. And so I'm not shilling for Armenia. This is what's happening. So, be careful. One of the reasons I've never been a victim of crime is, you could say it's a boring way to live, but I've had my party time. I'm really not into that. And if I were, I would be doing it in a different way than what people tend to do. I wouldn't be hitting up discos and getting smashed and, walking around at 2:00 in the morning. But here's the thing. I'm an early riser. I get up maybe 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. If I'm going to do anything, I'll go out in the morning. That's when I run my errands, because it doesn't rain that often in the morning. If we're going to get rain, it's usually in the afternoon or evening. And so I'll do that. And then by the time the rain's going to hit, it's in the afternoon. By that time, I'm somewhere having lunch. My chores have been done, my errands, my shopping, whatever it is I was out for. These days, I'll be doing a lot of walking. which, by the way, I will be doing on the street videos again because having this repaired and having some return of energy, I love out walking. That's why you saw hundreds of videos of me out walking all over the place. And the truth is, I just couldn't really do it much anymore. Of course, I learned why. So I'm in by when the sun's going down, with very few exceptions, I'm home. Criminals are night workers. They're lazy. They don't want to get up early, but we have the best weather. It's the best time to do things, and it's when they're sleeping. I don't do that because I'm trying to avoid the criminals. That would be a secondary or a tertiary thing, but it just so happens you don't run into crime when your lifestyle is like that. If I wanted to have parties, I could have them here. You could rent a little hall. You could go to places and return in groups of people, kind of like the Colombians do it. So you can have any kind of lifestyle. You just want to think about it, do it thoughtfully. So that's what I got about the crime. And now we'll get to the hospital. I got a little slide thing there, kind of gross. I got these all over my body, all over my arms, my hips, everywhere. It's you feel like you got hit by a semi truck when it's all said and done. Let me show you these things. I see a couple of notes up, so I'll get to those. There's my tag. That's me in the observation room. Notice the red band. I was special. I got a red band. You can't see it there, but it was a very high blood pressure. When my blood pressure was the highest, around 10 to 13, over 100, 150, insanely high, I was too out of it, or I wasn't about to take pictures of it. As it came down, it got down to like 170 over something, which is still insanely high. But that's when you see me start snapping pictures with my phone. That's where they went into my arm. They keep a compression on it for, I don't know, a whole bunch of hours. Yeah, still in observation. I ended up spending my entire time in observation. Here comes Sharik. Yeah, this is a little episode I'll tell you about in a minute. And here it's coming down 142 over 83, 105 over 69, which is pretty awesome. Yep, still in the observation room. Okay, so the way the hospital's made up, I got sent to emergency again. So you go to emergency, and they do a triage thing, and then while you're waiting for the triage thing to be acted on, or whatever the reason, you get rolled into the observation room, and it's a series of 1, 2, 3 large rooms, and each one has a bunch of hospital beds with curtains between them. So you're in a room of maybe 15 people, and they're all openly connected to each other. So I ended up there, and they decided, they kept me because I was actually having, I don't know if I call it a heart attack. I forget how they worded it. My heart wasn't working right. They said, well, we're not going to have you come back. We're going to hospitalize you overnight. We're going to do the procedure first thing in the morning. Okay. They do a lot of these there, and they didn't have any. They would have taken me in right away, I found out, but they had people ahead of me. So first thing in the morning. So that's what we did. So when you come out of the procedure, what typically would happen is you would go up to the ICU and then a mandatory 24-hour watch period. And with what I went through, it would have been at least 48 or longer. That's what happened last time. But circumstances turned out didn't allow it. And from the ICU on your last day or two or whatever, then you can go to the regular hospital room. So that's the process it works through. Well, after I did the procedure, I got put back in the observation because there were no beds available. And there were no beds available the next day. Let me show you. I got a couple headlines here. Where is it? Here we go. Hospital emergency rooms in the region exceed 160% occupancy. Another one here, headline. Alert, San Juan de Dios Hospital overwhelmed by a spike in respiratory infections in Quindio. That's been going on all over the place here, and not just in Armenia, but all around Quindio. And I actually read something that says all over Colombia. So that means it's probably all over Ecuador and Venezuela and whatever. I'm not sure what's going on. I can tell you that in the observation room, there were a couple people in there that were hacking as bad as I've ever heard in my life. It was bad. I've had pneumonia and I've had hacking so much I pulled muscles on my ribs, but this sounded worse. So that was not cool. So I ended up staying in observation. There was nowhere to put me. Now here's the thing. There's the bad and the good. The bad was the operation was Tuesday morning. Tuesday night around 11:30 or midnight, I'm not sure when, my blood pressure went crazy. And you have to be careful with that. Well, in general, you have to. But when your body's full of blood thinners and all those kind of things, it's real easy to spring a leak. One of the things they're constantly looking for is if you're bleeding around your nose or around your eyes, because it's a common thing to happen because you get pumped so full of these blood thinners and things so you don't get a stroke and all that kind of whole bunch of chemicals. Well, my blood pressure went crazy, as I mentioned, like over 200, over 100. It was just insane. That normally can hurt you, can destroy internal organs, all kinds of things. Could force another heart attack, all kinds of things. But with all those chemicals, it becomes critical. And so went from everybody just kind of going around doing their thing to having a group of people around me for the next 3 to 4 hours, pumping more chemicals in me. They had this clear syringe like that with a clear liquid, and in my arm there was this little valve, and they would connect the syringe to that little valve, and they would inject it. Fair amount of liquid. You could feel it going through, and you could feel it. It actually kind of hurts from the pressure of it until it disperses. They did that 4 times an hour. When I had the heart attack, they only did that like twice in 24 hours. They did it 4 times in an hour. I'm not even sure what that stuff was. You're miserable. You can't get comfortable. Everything hurts. You're really lightheaded, kind of delirious. So we went through that, and it's a potential death event. Hence, everybody around me and, ready to do whatever they had to do. They had me take some pills during the thing. I recognize one of them was a blood pressure pill. So this was going on, like I say, 3 or 4 hours. And then it starts dropping down. By 4 o'clock in the morning, we fell back. I had a 140 over 90, which compared to how it had been going, that was a blessing. And then it just kept coming down, until finally it got to a pretty good, like 104 over 60 or whatever. That's damn good. And then there was a period of time when I actually went a little too low. That's, I think, all the chemicals I'd been pumped with. So that's the backdrop of how I got out of there. So from that morning on, they have you hooked up, and the blood pressure just automatically it takes it like every, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. It's pretty often. You got your EKG thing going, you're breathing and all that stuff. It's all going on. And it came down and stayed down, and it stayed very consistent. At some point, as some of those medicines would wear off, you would think it would go up, but it didn't. Everything, it's like it pulled me back down into something good. In the meantime, around 9:30, ambulances started bringing people in on those mobile beds, one after another, after another, after another. And I'm in this bed. I was actually been sitting up for quite a while because it hurt. It hurt so much. I could tell another time about that. It hurt. Couldn't get comfortable. It was so bad, and I got so many bruises from it over situations, which is part of why it hurt, because of the bruises. One of the nurses went out down a hall into another room. She stole this comfortable, cushy chair and dragged it back for me. God bless her. And I sat in that chair, and it was like heaven. It's like, oh my God, right at the foot of the bed, right in the way of people trying to get around. But, it's like, it wasn't so miserable. But I'm seeing all these people coming and going. I'm not going to be comfortable there. There's still no beds up in the ICU. We've got people. There was a lady, an older lady, who actually died right there in the observation room, practically in front of us. They pulled the curtains. She was right next to my bed. There was a walk area between us, and I had seen her the night before. She was in a lot of pain, and she ended up dying, from what I understand, an aneurysm. But she went in there. It was supposed to be for a kidney stone, which I guess she had a kidney stone, but during the course of it, she had an aneurysm and ended up dying. So there was a lot of chaos that morning. A lot of people kind of rushing around, freaking out, trying to do things. They had just changed the shift from the night shift, who had done all that freaking out over me. Well, now the new shift is there freaking out over some other people that were there. From one guy, his head was kind of caved in. I don't know what happened there. He was on the other side of me. It was pretty gross. He was moaning all night. It's a hospital. Bad things are there, So all this is going on, and I decided I would be much more comfortable at home. I got a little portable blood pressure thing. If anything happens, I'm 5 minutes away. So I decided I'm going to see if I can get out of there. Considering what happened the night before, there is no way in hell typically I would have been able to get out of there. They would have kept me for a while. It was less consequential last time I was in, and they kept me for 5 days. So I knew that there was no way in hell. But with all this going on and desperate for a bed, I got a hold of the administrator, because he's not a doctor. And I said, why don't you let me go home? I could free up the bed. Look, my blood pressure has been great. The procedure's done. You've watched me all this time. Why don't you let me go? And he got back to me a few minutes later and agreed. And so everybody's rushing around trying to get the arm thing out and get me my blast medication and getting the documents printed up and all that kind of stuff to get me out. They had somebody in that bed before I even was out the door. So I went out. Nothing cost me, nothing at all. None of the medication. There was no copay, nothing. just completely free, just like last time. Um, so that's how I got out early. I took advantage of the situation. Now, somebody might say, "Well, that was stupid. You're trying to kill yourself. You should have stayed with care." With what was going on, I don't know who would have been available if I had a problem. Anyway, I'm serious in that there were a number of very critical things occurring, and there's only so many people. There's only so much that can be done. And like I said, that woman just died just before I went out. Shariq was all freaked out for the next day or two because she had never seen anybody personally die. Now, she's from Kauka, and she's seen bodies before, and they have bombs go off, and she's seen that. But this was different. She saw this woman there in pain, and the doctors would come and check her out. She saw that process, saw her alive, saw the pain that she had been going through, and then how rapidly she went from pain of a kidney stone to being dead. Kind of hits home. And I'm sure a lot of people watch around my age, and you've probably seen that many multiples of time in my life. I mean, I lost count long ago. Plus, if you're in the military and involved in any kind of wartime, and these are things that you've seen, but she had never seen that. It totally freaked her out. So, in that situation, is it a bad thing that I came home, cleared a hospital bed for other people, when I actually am able to monitor myself and take the medication? And if there was an emergency, I could return probably quicker than they could have got somebody to me anyway. And so that was a motivation. Um, I'm I'm living on borrowed time the way I see it, and I'm very um, just so that you understand. I've lived a great life, a full life. I've lived dozens of lifetimes, and I came to terms with this. Year before last, when I had a pretty severe episode, and uh, I'm 71 years old. I'm almost 72. You're not going to live forever, and I know that, and I'm not even bummed or depressed about it. I actually feel very grateful for the kind of life I've been able to live. And so I view that now, don't get me wrong, I'd love to live another 20 years. And if I can, I will. However, if things go south, what the hell do you expect? You're 71 years old. You've lived a crazy life. I mean, I've cheated death so many times. There was a time when I was in the Marine Corps when people asked me what I did, glibly, sarcastically, I said that my job, what's your job, what's your MOS, or whatever. I say I cheat death because so many things that occurred. That's actually how I felt, and that continued throughout my life, where certain things would occur that it's like, I can't believe I came out on the other side of that. And so this cat with the 9 lives turns out probably had 18 lives. And so, if something happened tomorrow, it's pretty hard to have regret. What you have is, well, crap, I've got miles to go before I sleep, kind of thing. There's a lot more I want to do. I mean, I'm fully entrenched in life and doing this coffee thing. It's my hobby. I love doing these videos. I'm so excited about getting out and being able to walk and do videos again and being physically able to do it again. I'm excited about all that, and I'd hate to take it away. You have it taken away because I couldn't hang in there. On the other hand, if your house burns down before Christmas, what the hell? That happens. It's not the end of the world. And for me, hopefully, it won't be the end. Well, it might be the end of this world, but I think it'll just be another adventure figuring out finally what is there after life. So I think I've got a pretty stable, down to earth view of all that. On the other hand, you know, I don't want to be careless and intentionally cut it short. So my plans going forward is I will get back to walking again. It's been several years when I've really been able to do it to much extent. I'm told that I came through this outside of that episode with excellent results, and that there's nothing I should restrict myself from. I do have to take a certain amount of medications. For the stint, there's one particular medication that I have to take for the next year. It's a medicated stint, but it has to reinforce that medication for a period of time. I'm not sure. I'm not a doctor, and I didn't go too crazy on some questions. I was more interested in the immediate things. So I've got that. All in all, I've got 9 different medicines to take every day. Well, a couple of those are double. So as far as the brand names, it's not 9, it's probably 6 or 7, maybe 5 or 6. I have to take, except for the one that's they say is a year, I'll have to take for the rest of my life. But hey, a handful of pills, once in the morning, once in the evening, 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the evening. You know, small price to pay. And they're covered. They're covered by insurance. I didn't get an opportunity. Somebody asked me, and with everything that was going on, I didn't have the opportunity to ask what this procedure would cost if I didn't have the insurance. And I'm kicking myself for it because I really was curious too. There's some, you know, if you ever read some of the Medellin Facebook pages, there's some people that are pretty gross on there, they're pretty nasty. You know, they're very toxic. You want to avoid them. But something you see over and over, year after year, somebody will mention, hey, you know, people will post up their health information for the reason of, you know, people. And when you're dealing with things, you just can't be responding to every single person. So you just put it up on social media to give people an idea of what's going on so that they're not, you know, thinking you disappeared or whatever. And it cuts down on the messages, which when you're dealing with medical things, that's the last thing you want. And thank you all my friends who really kept that to a dull roar. I appreciate it very much. But I wasn't, the few I got, I barely responded. Like I say, I put my phone in the other room and just, it didn't exist. So that's, yeah, I don't know if I want to keep going on with that. I want to look at the chat. There's, what more do I want to say on it? Oh, they have you'd say the medication's free, hospital, ambulance, all that's free. It's all included. And the last thing is there's a facility everywhere, but there's one here in particular in the north, not too far. It's right by Parque Fundadores, on the other side of all the clinics and hospitals. Fundación Ladonia or something like that. And it's a couple things, but it's primarily a cardiac rehab center. And so included in the process and procedure is I can go there and they will monitor me maybe once a week or whatever it is they set up. Phone going off. Whatever it is they set up, go in, they'll monitor you, they'll check they'll put you on the treadmill and, you know, go through that procedure. All of that stuff just to make sure that you're doing what you should do, that you're healing up well, that there isn't anything popping up that gets overlooked. So they kind of hold your hand and look after you for a period of time. And it's kind of open ended. As long as I want to have that available, at least this is what one told me, that I can go there. I think the insurance companies look at it, as long as you're going there, you're probably keeping medical costs down. Now, what I started to say about the Facebook, I was going to get off. It's kind of a little negative, so I decided not to, but I kind of need to. With these negative things, what you'll see is these trolls that every so often will say, "Why are you posting up your medical stuff to brag about how you're leeching off the medical system of Colombia?" Uh, and they say all these nasty things about you're just a scumbag to go to another country and leech off them and like that. And when you read that stuff, you don't have to reply to it. When you read it, you realize what an idiot this person is, because things are so inexpensive. This procedure, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to learn that procedure was probably $2,000, something like that. Well, I've been drawing health insurance for 6.5 years, maybe more, in Colombia, paying for health insurance, and have barely used it. It wasn't until last year, it was the first time I actually ever used it. Barely used it. It was almost no cost. If it'd been out of pocket, I might have spent $100. And the second time, same thing. There wasn't any real cost until I had my heart attack, beginning of April, and then going back this time. But even then, if you look at all that I've spent on, it's not that much, but then costs aren't that much either. And so if you were to add it up, yeah, I could probably go through this a few more times before it would balance out. I've certainly more than contributed, but not only, and I'm saying this for you also, not only have I contributed my share to the healthcare system and then some, because I would actually, if I had little things here or there, I would just pay a private doctor out of pocket. But just by the sake of being here, I'm paying rent. I pay rent on time. For 6.5 years, I've never been late. I bought a car. I bought 4 in total. People. In other words, I'm part of the economy. I have bank accounts. I have Colombian credit cards. I pay interest on those when I use them. All of these things, when you're integrated in the economy, you're paying every day into that economy. I go grocery shopping, when I travel around, all of that. I am not a leech on society, and either are you. When you come here, you're contributing so much to the society. That's why there's so many countries that actually try to get retirees to go there, because even though they'll have a higher percentage of medical costs, you got everything else. It's a package deal, and the country's GDP, it benefits from this. So I wanted to say that too, because if you had those kind of feelings about yourself, I'm sure you've seen those things because there's so much of it. And I just want to put your mind at ease that these people are just idiots. They're just trolls. They're either just trying to be assholes, and they do very well at it, or they're just completely ignorant and they don't know any better. Okay, so we got Benares is a bomb. Okay, in Pareda. Well, I always said that if I lived in Pareda, that would be one of the places I'd choose. I don't know if there's any place that's entirely bad, but even Cali, there's a couple places I would live if I had to. Jeppy, good morning all. How you doing? Turtle, 5 minutes to Cruzia. Oh, you're back on Benares. 5 minutes to Parque Arba. Yeah, Sur is out my back door. Maybe a 3-minute walk. Turtle, is Benares one of the better barrios in Pareda? Absolutely. Are you in a condo, apartment, or house? He's in a condo. Happy you are back. Thank you. I'm in a condo in Benares, in my opinion, the finest hood in the coffee region. No. Well, it's in your opinion. You can have your opinion. As crazy as it is, and got a little ill-informed, but but it is nice. It is nice. It has some real benefits to it. I said I went through a video there, a walking video, maybe 4 years ago, over the course of a few days in that part of Pareda. Um, and I said at that time that if there was a place I was going to live, it would be there. It was hot as hell. The air kind of hangs. There's aspects to it that you can live there, but there's certain things you have to put up with. What Turtle hasn't found out yet, he's in a particularly cool part of the year. And when this weather thing finally is over and it goes to normal, he's going to realize it gets pretty damn hot there because the issue isn't as much the temperature as it's the air movement. If you don't have air movement, it's awful. And if you have air movement, you can tolerate 10 degrees hotter. And that's the problem there. It gets very uncomfortable to be out walking around. I was doing a video at that time, and it was kind of miserable, and I had to stop a couple times in the shade, just kind of recover. But I that was when I had energy, and I loved walking, and I was doing a lot of walking, and so I didn't like standing still very long, so I just kept kind of pushing myself. But it's hot and miserable, and if I lived there, and a lot of the year, I would find reasons not to go out, or maybe go out and get in a taxi and go to the mall where it's air conditioned or something. You wouldn't think it'd be that hot, but it is. It is because the air hangs. And I lived there 22, 3 years ago, and it was the same thing. It was hotter than 10,000 mother truckers. It was just on those days. It was just miserable. Anyway, we've got some nice climate things going on, and it's very cool. It was actually really cold here the night I got out of the hospital. Of course, that might have to do with the medicine and my blood and stuff, but it was downright chilly. Okay, Panares is definitely a nice area. Here. And the Cruzia, he's got a good point on the Cruzia, best supermarket in all of Colombia. And he's like 2 blocks, maybe 2, maybe 3. I don't think it's 3, maybe 2 blocks away. Don, how you doing? Was there English speakers there at the hospital? There were a few. For the most part, no. If there was something that was critical, they could come up with something. Every doctor spoke some English. Every doctor I met, this holds true from the last time. Every doctor I met got their medical training in the United States. And I've said this before, it's so funny. In the United States, every doctor you meet got their medical training out of the Caribbean or India. It just seems to be that way. But here, the doctors they'll spend 20 minutes with you. It's in the U.S., you never even got to see a doctor. You got all these doctor representers. So there's some real positives about medicine here, but there is a huge cultural negative, and that's a topic of its own that I think is a very important information. It may be one of the more important videos out of the 700 or 800 I've done when I do that video, because it was an eye opener for me. And you would think I would have known that, but you have to kind of go through this to realize and think it through of where the obstacles were, why they were. You really have to kind of analyze it and talk with some people, including some of the doctors, to figure out why things are the way they are, and why when everything else is so freaking awesome, how is it I run into this brick wall, and why is it so hard to get over it? So that'll be a topic entirely on its own, because that's a good 20, 25-minute conversation. Turtle, after living in Bucaramanga, it's easy weather. It's actually very much. It's very much like Bucaramanga. If you remember, before you moved to Bucaramanga, I was telling you it was hot. And yeah, I remember you saying, "No, I visited there for a week and it was really nice." Yeah, well, but we're talking the majority of the days, and it gets pretty damn hot there. And in Pereira, and I don't mean hot as in just going by the temperature. For example, where you lived in Bucaramanga, up that hill, that was considerably cooler than if you were in Bucaramanga walking around, right? And that's because you had that breeze, coming off the mountain. Here in Armenia, I'm in the north. I've got a perpetual breeze. It's all the time, 24 hours a day. I have this breeze that cools things down. In Pereira, it's kind of a bowl, and the air is stagnant much of the time, and not always. And you have some days that are quite pleasant, but the majority of the days, I don't mean your 3-week vacation or whatever, but over the course of the year, and I've lived there for a year, over the course of a year, you have far more of those hot, miserable airs just hanging days than you have of the, nice, pleasant weather. And I never forgot that. And that was one of the handful of reasons I would never want to live there. Donnie, I had a procedure done in Panama, and the language barrier created a lot of misery. I'm motivated to learn Spanish just not to experience that again. Well, part of the thing is, for a long time, I've trashed myself about my level of Spanish and all of that. But when you find yourself in circumstances like Sherry hardly speaks a word of English, although she's doing some online live remote English classes now. But I have most people that I interact with day after day, month after month, don't speak English. And so while my Spanish is still terrible, particularly as far as sentence structure and syntax and tense of the word, whether it's past, future, whatever, I butcher that stuff all to hell. But I have enough of the vocabulary and enough words to put together understandable sentences, even though they're pathetic, people will still understand it. Think Superman Bizarro. So I speak like Superman Bizarro, kind of backwards talk and whatever, which you do between Spanish and English. You tend to reverse the position of the words. Well, that's me. I'm Superman Bizarro. But there was enough to deal with most of the issues that I could have gone through the entire thing with the level of Spanish that I have, which I would say is quite low, but enough to communicate and even have somewhat conversation to get through that. Now, if I had no Spanish and you go in and you don't know what to expect and you can't find out what to expect, that can freak you out. And that alone can make it a bad experience, even if they're doing everything in order and they're doing everything right. You find yourself in a situation that's just going to freak you out. So there's that. When I put this video together, it'll probably be next week's coffee time because it's a kind of video that deserves comments and questions. So maybe that'll be next week. When you're putting your life together here, I've said this before, but you need to make a concerted effort to have acquaintances in various categories that can assist you, that are there for your beck and call, that can help you out. And some you might have to, give them some gas money or buy them lunch or something. Some you become friends with and you do things for them so that when the time comes, they'll do things for you. But you need to set up that circle. As you all know, I'm a keep it to myself kind of guy. I could live, and I have lived for very long periods of time on my own. I don't break down. I don't go loopy. I'm very happy and comfortable that way. But when it comes to getting to the point where you get over 70, you got to expect something to happen, right? You need to put your ducks in a row. You need to start planning for that, lining things up, having resources, people to draw on. And when you get to a place, I've always done this, you need to actively look for people that'll be there if you need them for one thing or another. There's a million reasons to do that, whether it's trying to find a place to live without getting ripped off, the best place to go shopping, where to find certain things, ins and outs of using a particular city's taxi cab or the buses. There's a million things. When I do my resettling with people, they come and they pay me for a couple days. These are a lot of things I go over with them and make sure that they're aware that how critical these things are, and then I'll put them in touch with certain contact points, like doctor and things like that, rental cars, all kinds of things, so that they have at least that. But you don't want to just go with it. You need to build up your own. You need to build up your own relationships. If you're not putting time and effort into that, you're just looking for trouble. So Donnie, I get exactly what you're saying, and sometimes you don't have enough time to put it together, but you have to make a concerted effort to do it. I did it in Ecuador. I did it in Manizales. I did it here. So, well, Manizales, I was only there for a handful of months, and it was only I didn't have everything I needed fleshed out. There were just a couple key things, and that was it. Plus, I had Turtle. I could always bug him. Okay, Donnie, copy that. Yeah, I was preaching to the crowd. I think you already know that. All right, run over an hour, doing pretty good. Throat's hoarse, got nothing to do with any kind of illness. Oh, one other thing I will say, I haven't been able to get out walking yet. This is kind of gross. All those chemicals that they pumped in that night had a side effect. And I found out shortly after I got home. I've been living, beginning last night, it's greatly improved. But from Wednesday around noon until last night, I've been living in the bathroom with the worst case of water expulsion that I think I've ever had. And at first I was kind of freaking out, what the hell is going on here? And then I find out that all those medications they gave me, the first time I didn't go through that because they gave me the normal amounts. Well, this time it was like a ridiculous amount. Surprising I didn't bust at the seams from you can only blood thin so much, I would think. But that had a side effect, and I'm only just now recovering. It was to the point my plan was to come home Thursday and Friday, rest, to build back some energy. And then Saturday morning, I wanted to hit the sidewalk, go get my hair cut. It hasn't been cut in a long time. It's not that bad, but it's shaggy, and go get my hair cut and do some pretty healthy walking, measure it on my Samsung watch, and get things started. I couldn't leave the house for 10 minutes. I certainly couldn't walk. So there was that. I'm hoping this Sunday, I'm feeling better today. We'll see how today goes. I'm planning on meeting up a couple people for lunch tomorrow here in the north. Rigo, Mike, if you're out there available, if anybody's interested, we'll meet for lunch. Kind of miss some of my friends. I've got that many friends, and I kind of miss them. And then Tuesday, tentatively plan to go to Manizales and come back Wednesday and do a walking video. I will also be doing some new walking videos here in Armenia because enough time has passed that some of the things that I covered for a very long time, it's not recognizable to be the same place. A lot of places have closed down, new places have sprung up. There's buildings where building didn't exist, things like that. And so I'm not just going to blanket it, but I will hit some places that have gone through some real changes. And I'll do some here in Armenia, really just as an update. I'm kind of bored with doing Armenia because I've done so much of it. But I'll go out and hit some of the pueblos and a few places outside of Quindio that I wanted to do. Plus, I also, as far as being active goes, I've got a lot of coffee videos I've got to do for the coffee business, and until I got everything finished, it didn't make sense to be promoting something that I had issues with. No more issues. It's all ready. And so there's that. So I had a lot of people. There's a lot of people here right now. I had a lot of people for this video. I want to thank you. Lauren, come to Pinares. We'll walk together. It hasn't changed from when I was there last. And it wasn't that long ago. But I will come to see you at some point, but it won't be to walk Pinares. I've done it not just a couple times. And it's right now, it's the same as the last time I was there. But we'll definitely get together. All right, that's it. So let me get to my buttons to push. Did I miss anything? Oh, I want to mention this is kind of a big thing. In the north, we've got this old hospital, the San Juan del Dios or whatever. And then they're building the new one. It's got a big round tower, and it's got then a rectangular building next to it. And it's gorgeous. It's pretty big, obviously very modern. That will be opening this year. There is another place that got in some kind of laser treatment for prostate. It's like, from what I saw on WebMD, it's like the most state of the art where they can actually drill down and shrink that prostate without actually cutting into you. I don't know how that works, but it's some laser machine. They have it here in Armenia. It's prostate issues, third cause of death in Armenia. So they got this machine. But the San Juan de Dios has been here for a long time. It's the public hospital. They've been upgrading a lot, and I'm surprised because the building's pretty rickety. It's pretty old, but they've been upgrading, getting new equipment in. They now have a new renal department with all state-of-the-art equipment. But now I know why. Historic San Juan de Dios Hospital in Quindio is now officially a university teaching hospital. We have a medical program here, but we never had an official hospital. They had internships, but now they have a specific teaching hospital. It's certified. It's more than just a Colombian thing. So that's pretty big. People say, well, Armenia is only 300,000 people. Medicine can't be that good. You'd be surprised. I mean, I swear half of the jobs in Armenia relate directly to healthcare. All right. So that's it. We're going to end it here. Thank you all. I will see you next week. And I guess we'll talk about the cultural brick wall you hit when you're trying to deal with medicine in Colombia. Ciao.
Wow.